On January 9th, several days before the legislative session began, the Washington State Supreme Court issued an order that has further ramped up the debate on education funding. Can you tell us about that order?
What happened was they have said we're not funding education to the level it should be funded. However, with that said, we did fund an additional $1 billion to education this last session of the legislature. So they're saying that's not enough and we must do more. And I think we all realize that education is the paramount duty of the legislature and the state of Washington to take care of the children.
Many lawmakers say they are concerned that the Supreme Court is overstepping its constitutional separation of powers by trying to micromanage the legislature and the level of funding of education. Do you share those concerns?
I absolutely do. You know, when our forefathers set up the Constitution and they divided the government into three areas: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. And they all, in a way, operate separately. And I think what the Supreme Court has done is I think they've made a huge mistake, and they're moving over trying to legislate laws, which they should be. Their job is to interpret the law, not to legislate. And so I really do feel they have overstepped their bounds.
Some lawmakers are concerned that if they complain out loud about the court order, it makes them appear to not support fully funding education, even though that's not the case. What are your thoughts?
You know, I think that there are some who feel that way. I think what we need to do, though, is we need to look at the record. And the record says we have funded education to the tune of $1 billion in addition to funding this last session. And we know we're under a mandate to continue to fund it. I know I come from a background of education, and I spent over 32 years in two school districts, Mabton and Toppenish. And I know that there are also ways that we can save money within the education field itself.
As this issue moves forward, where will you stand on the issue of funding education?
I think all of us in the legislature are committed to fully funding education. Now, with that said, as I said a moment ago, I think we need to take a long, hard look at education and decide where monies can be saved. I don't think it necessarily that some people do feel that it's going to be a huge tax increase. I don't believe in that. I don't think it's necessary. And I think we will continue to do our job to fund education. After all, as I said, the paramount duty of the state of Washington is education, so we will do that. But I think we can do it without looking at huge tax increases.